The Silent Guardian. The Nexus Armada arrived on a Tuesday morning, their ships casting electric blue shadows across Earth's major cities, not with the dramatic flair of Hollywood invasion films, but with the cold efficiency of exterminators arriving for a routine job. Their vessels, angular crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, positioned themselves strategically above Earth's 100 most populous centers. Commander Vexthor stood at the bridge of the flagship Inevitable, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the primitive world below. Humanity had already proven troublesome to the Nexus Coalition, refusing 3 separate offers of peaceful integration, their polite term for submission. The Coalition's policy on resistant species was absolute: either join or face extinction. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, his second, Carl, reported. Their military capabilities remain unchanged since our last assessment. Primitive projectile weapons, basic energy shields, and rudimentary AI systems. Nothing that could challenge even our smallest scout vessel. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. Begin the standard procedure. Disable their global communications, then target their military installations. I want this done quickly and cleanly. The first wave of attacks went exactly as planned. Earth's most sophisticated weapons proved useless against Nexus shielding technology. Military bases worldwide fell silent within hours. Global communications collapsed, leaving billions in darkness about what was happening beyond their immediate vicinity. But that's when things started to go wrong. The first sign came from Mumbai. A Nexus ground force, sent to secure the city center, went dark. Not in combat. There was no resistance reported, no shots fired. 40 elite soldiers simply vanished. The same happened in Lagos hours later, then Seoul, then Mexico City. Vexthor stood before the tactical display, his crystalline armor reflecting the red warning signals flooding his screen. Impossible, he muttered. Show me the last transmission from the Seoul unit. The holographic display flickered to life. It showed standard combat footage. Nexus soldiers advancing through abandoned streets. Then movement, just a blur really. The camera spun, and for a fraction of a second, something appeared in frame. A figure, seemingly human but moving too fast for clear identification. Then static. Analysis confirms it was a single attacker, Carl reported, her voice carrying an unfamiliar note of uncertainty. But sir, the energy readings don't make sense. They suggest capabilities far beyond documented human limitations. Vexthor's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of agitation. Explain. The entity appears to be human in basic form, but it's operating at speeds and strength levels that should be impossible for their species. More concerning. She paused, mandibles twitching. It seems to be learning. Each encounter shows more sophisticated tactics. The commander turned to his tactical display. Already, nearly 20% of their ground forces had gone silent. No distress calls, no battles, just silence, and always the same blur in the final footage, a dark figure moving with impossible speed. Sir, Carl's voice dropped lower, the humans have a name for it. We've intercepted their encrypted communications. They call it the Guardian. But there's something else, something that doesn't translate well into our language. They speak of it as if what? As if they created it, not through technology, but through something else. They say it's the manifestation of humanity's will to survive, their collective refusal to submit given form. Vexthor's exoskeleton rippled, the equivalent of a shudder. His species prided themselves on understanding the universe through pure logic and advanced science. But this defied their understanding. A new alert flashed on his screen. Another unit had gone dark, this time in New York, but something was different. The final transmission captured a clear image of their attacker, a figure in dark armor that seemed to absorb light just like their ships. Its design was primitive compared to Nexus technology, yet somehow it had rendered their most elite forces helpless. Begin Phase 2, Vexthor commanded. Recall all ground forces. Prepare for orbital bombardment. If we cannot take this world with precision, we will take it with overwhelming force." But as he gave the order, a chill ran through his crystalline armor, a sensation he'd never experienced before. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Vexthor felt something that his species had evolved beyond millennia ago. The humans had done something impossible. They had taken their greatest weakness, their emotional, irrational nature, and turned it into a weapon. They had given their desperation physical form, and now that form was hunting them. As night fell over Earth's cities, the Nexus Armada prepared for their most devastating attack. But in the shadows below, a dark figure moved with purpose, carrying with it the combined will of 7 billion souls who refused to submit. The hunt was just beginning. Shadows of resistance. The orbital bombardment never came. As Vexthor prepared to give the command, 3 of his primary weapons platforms simply ceased to exist. No explosions, no debris. They simply vanished into the void. The impossible had happened again. In the command center of the inevitable, Karl's holographic displays showed a pattern that defied Nexus military doctrine. Their ships were being dismantled piece by piece, not by advanced weapons, but by something that seemed to move through solid matter like shadow through light. "It's ascending," she reported, her voice carrying the unfamiliar tremor of uncertainty. "The Guardian. It's learned to reach us even here." Vexthor watched the tactical display with all 4 eyes widened. The figure they'd encountered on the ground was now moving through space itself, treating the vacuum between stars as casually as humans walked their streets. It violated every law of physics the Nexus understood. But that wasn't the worst part. "Show me the global resistance pattern," he commanded. The display shifted, revealing something that chilled his crystalline core. What had begun as random guerrilla attacks had evolved into a coordinated dance of destruction. Every human strike coincided perfectly with the Guardian's movements, as if 7 billion minds were working in perfect harmony. In the ruins of Chicago, Sarah Chen led her resistance cell through the shadows of broken skyscrapers. They weren't soldiers. She had been a quantum physicist, her second-in-command a grocery store manager. But something had changed when the Guardian first appeared. Every human survivor suddenly knew exactly what to do, as if guided by an invisible hand. "There," she whispered, pointing to a Nexus patrol. Their crystalline armor gleamed in the twilight, but Sarah could see the fear in their movements. These weren't the same confident invaders who had arrived weeks ago. These were predators who had discovered they were now prey. Her team moved with practiced precision, using nothing more sophisticated than modified construction equipment and improvised explosives. But their timing was perfect. The moment the aliens turned east, Sarah's people struck from the west. When they raised their energy shields, the attacks came from below. Above them, a shadow passed briefly over the moon. Sarah smiled. They were never alone anymore. The Guardian was everywhere and nowhere, a constant presence in every survivor's mind. They could feel its purpose, its drive, its absolute determination to protect humanity. Back on the inevitable, Vexthor received another impossible report. Their advanced AI systems, the pride of Nexus technology, were failing. Not through any obvious attack. They simply couldn't process what was happening on Earth. The machines, programmed to understand warfare through pure logic, couldn't comprehend an enemy that seemed to break the fundamental laws of reality. "Sir," Karl's voice interrupted his thoughts, "we're receiving a transmission from them." The message was brief, sent simultaneously to every Nexus ship in Earth orbit. It contained no threats, no demands, just a simple statement that made Vexthor's exoskeleton crack with stress. "We are humanity. We will not submit. We are protected." As if in response, alarms blared throughout the flagship. The Guardian had been detected aboard, somehow in multiple locations simultaneously. Vexthor's elite guard raised their weapons, their crystalline armor humming with enough power to vaporize a small city. It made no difference. The figure appeared in their midst, its dark armor now seeming to pulse with the combined heartbeats of every human below. When it moved, reality itself seemed to bend. The elite guard's weapons, the most advanced in the galaxy, passed through it as if attacking a shadow. But the Guardian's counterstrikes were devastatingly real. "Impossible," Vexthor whispered as his guards fell. "What are you?" The figure paused, and for the first time spoke. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, carrying the weight of billions of souls. "We are humanity's answer to extinction. We are their fear, their hope, their rage, and their love. We are what you made us become." In that moment, Vexthor understood the true scope of their mistake. The Nexus had encountered countless species, conquered many, and annihilated others. But humanity was different. Under ultimate threat, they had done something unprecedented. They had weaponized their own consciousness, their collective will to survive. They had created a guardian not from technology, but from pure human determination. As the figure vanished, taking with it another crucial section of the flagship's systems, Carol turned to her commander. "Sir, I don't believe we're fighting a war anymore." "No," Vexthor agreed, watching as more of his fleet went dark. "We're witnessing an evolution, and we may have just awakened something that will reshape the galaxy itself." Below, in cities and towns across Earth, millions of humans looked up at the night sky and smiled. They could feel it. Their guardian, their protector, their collective will made manifest. The Nexus had come to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had given it form, and that form was hunting them among the stars. The breaking point. Supreme Overlord Sivash arrived in Earth's orbit aboard the Paradigm, a vessel that dwarfed even the massive inevitable. Its crystalline surface didn't merely absorb light. It bent reality around itself, a testament to the apex of Nexus engineering. As the supreme commander of the Coalition's forces, Sivash had overseen the subjugation of 17 civilizations. None had ever warranted his personal attention before. But Earth was different. Earth had done the impossible. "Show me everything," he commanded, his voice resonating through the chamber. The holographic display erupted with thousands of images, each showing the systematic dismantling of the galaxy's most powerful invasion force by what appeared to be a shadow-given form. Vexthor stood at attention, his once pristine armor now cracked from encounters with the Guardian. "Supreme Overlord, we've lost 60% of our fleet. Our ground forces are in complete disarray. The humans, they've changed the rules of engagement." Shivash's multiple eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The entity they call the Guardian, it's not just a weapon. It's becoming stronger. Every human on the planet is somehow connected to it. They act as one consciousness, yet maintain their individuality. It's as if what, Commander? As if they've weaponized their very souls." In the ruins of London, Dr. Elizabeth Hayes worked frantically in her makeshift laboratory. Before the invasion, she had been researching quantum consciousness. Now, surrounded by salvaged alien technology and desperate survivors, she was beginning to understand what humanity had accidentally achieved. "It's not just a manifestation," she explained to the resistance leaders gathered around her workstation. "We've somehow tapped into something fundamental about consciousness itself. The Guardian isn't just one being. It's all of us. Our collective will to survive has literally warped reality." Above her lab, the Guardian passed through solid walls as if they were mist, its dark armor now inscribed with patterns that seemed to shift between various human writing systems. It had evolved far beyond its initial form, growing stronger with every human it protected, every alien it defeated. On the Paradigm, Sivash received a report that chilled even his ancient soul. Their quantum analysis had revealed something unprecedented. The Guardian wasn't breaking the laws of physics. It was operating on a deeper level of reality, one where consciousness itself shaped the fundamental forces of the universe. "They've done it," he whispered. "After all these eons, a species has finally done it." "Done what, Supreme Overlord?" Carl asked, her role as senior analyst now crucial to understanding this threat. They've proven the ancient theory. Consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex systems, it's a fundamental force of the universe itself. And humanity, under the pressure of extinction, has learned to weaponize it. The implications were staggering. Every Nexus victory had been built on technological superiority, but humanity had transcended technology entirely. They had turned their greatest weakness, their emotional, irrational nature, into something that defied the very laws of reality. In New Delhi, a young girl named Priya watched as the Guardian passed overhead. Like every human survivor, she could feel its presence in her mind, not as an invasion, but as an extension of her own will to live. Through it, she could sense the determination of billions, their collective refusal to submit transformed into an unstoppable force. The Guardian paused in its patrol, turning its featureless helm toward her. For a moment, Priya saw its surface ripple, reflecting not her own image, but the faces of countless humans, all of them part of this new consciousness, this shared will to survive. Back on the Paradigm, Sivash made a decision that would reshape Nexus doctrine forever. "Begin the Omega Protocol," he commanded. Vexthor's armor cracked further in shock. "Supreme Overlord, the Omega Protocol is reserved for extinction-level threats to the Coalition itself." "Exactly." Sivash's eyes fixed on the tactical display, watching as the Guardian systematically dismantled another section of his fleet. Humanity hasn't just developed a new weapon. They've discovered something that could fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy, if they learn to fully control this power. His words were cut short by a new alarm. The Guardian had somehow manifested simultaneously on 12 different ships, each manifestation as real and deadly as the others. It was learning, evolving, growing stronger with each passing moment. In her London lab, Dr. Hayes watched her instruments with growing amazement. "The barrier is breaking," she announced to her team. "The barrier between individual consciousness and universal consciousness, we're actually breaking it. And the Guardian, it's not just protecting us anymore. It's teaching us." The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were on the cusp of an evolutionary leap that would transform them from a primitive species into something the galaxy had never seen before. As night fell over Earth's battlefields, both humans and aliens understood that they had reached a breaking point. But it wasn't the kind of breaking that led to destruction. It was the kind that led to transformation. The Guardian had become more than a protector. It had become a bridge between what humanity was and what they could become. And the Nexus Coalition trembled. Echo of humanity. First Officer Zura stood at her post aboard the Nexus warship Indomitable, watching her commander prepare for the Omega Protocol. Unlike her fellow officers, her crystalline armor bore hairline fractures, not from combat, but from an internal struggle that threatened to shatter her very understanding of existence. She had seen something during her last encounter with the Guardian. Something that changed everything. "The targeting systems are ready, Commander," she reported, her voice steady despite her turmoil. "Omega Protocol can commence on your order." But as the words left her mouth, she felt it again. That impossible resonance that had first touched her mind during the Battle of Sydney. The Guardian hadn't just fought them there. It had shown them something, a glimpse of what it meant to be human. In the ruins of Berlin, Professor Marcus Weber worked with a growing team of scientists and sensitives. They had discovered that the Guardian's influence was spreading beyond humanity. Alien technology didn't just fail around it, it transformed. "It's like watching evolution in real time," Marcus explained to his colleagues, pointing to readings from salvaged Nexus equipment. "Their technology is based on crystalline consciousness, artificial versions of their own minds. But exposure to the Guardian is causing these systems to wake up." Above the city, the Guardian manifested, its form now incorporating elements of both human and Nexus design. It had grown beyond its original purpose, becoming a bridge not just between individual humans, but between different forms of consciousness itself. On the Paradigm, Supreme Overlord HFY faced growing dissent among his ranks. More officers were reporting strange experiences, moments of connection with the human consciousness they were supposed to be eliminating. "You don't understand what's happening, do you?" Carl asked her Supreme Commander, her own armor showing signs of transformation. "We thought we were here to conquer a primitive species, but we've stumbled into an awakening." HFY turned all four eyes upon her. "Explain yourself, analyst." "The Guardian isn't just a weapon. It's a key. Humanity's desperate attempt to survive has unlocked something fundamental about consciousness itself, and it's infectious." Throughout the Nexus fleet, more warriors were experiencing the change. Their crystalline technology, designed to amplify their logical, ordered consciousness, was resonating with something far more chaotic and powerful: human emotion. Zyra felt it most strongly. During quiet moments on the bridge, she could sense the billions of minds below, not as primitive thoughts to be eliminated, but as a vast tapestry of experiences, hopes, fears, and determination. The Guardian had somehow bridged the gap between alien and human consciousness. In her London laboratory, Dr. Hayes made a breakthrough. "The Guardian isn't just protecting us," she announced to her team. "It's teaching us, and not just humans. It's teaching them too." The evidence was mounting. Every encounter with the Guardian left more Nexus warriors change, their rigid crystalline consciousness touched by something they had evolved beyond eons ago: the raw power of emotion and collective will. On the battlefields of Earth, strange scenes began to play out. Nexus warriors, their armor transformed by contact with the Guardian, began to hesitate. Some even turned against their own forces, their newly awakened consciousness unable to participate in the extinction of a species that had shown them a new way of existing. "We are experiencing an epidemic of consciousness," HFY declared to his war council. "This must be contained." But containment was becoming impossible. The Guardian's influence spread like ripples in the cosmic consciousness itself. Every attempt to counter it only served to amplify its effect. In a destroyed Tokyo district, a young survivor named Hiro watched in amazement as a Nexus warrior removed its helmet, its crystalline form pulsing with new awareness. The alien's eyes, once cold and calculating, now held something new: understanding. "We were wrong," the warrior said, its voice carrying both its native harmonic tones and a new, more human resonance. "We thought consciousness was meant to be ordered, controlled, singular. But you've shown us it's meant to be shared." The Guardian appeared above them, its form now a perfect synthesis of human ingenuity and Nexus technology. It had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming not just humanity's protector, but a catalyst for something far greater: the awakening of a universal consciousness. Zyra, standing on her bridge, made her decision. She opened her mind fully to the resonance, feeling the barrier between her crystalline consciousness and human emotion dissolve. In that moment, she understood what the Guardian had been trying to show them all along. The universe wasn't meant to be conquered, it was meant to be connected. As the Omega Protocol countdown continued, more and more Nexus warriors experienced the awakening. The rigid hierarchy of the coalition began to crack, not from external force, but from an internal transformation that no amount of military discipline could prevent. The Guardian had done more than save humanity. It had started a revolution of consciousness that would reshape the galaxy itself. And there was no protocol in existence that could stop an idea whose time had come. Dawn of recognition. The paradigm's crystal corridors pulsed with energy as Supreme Overlord HFY initiated the Omega Protocol. But something was different. The ship's consciousness, integrated into its crystalline structure, resonated with a new frequency, one that carried echoes of billions of human minds. "My lord," a technician called out, their armor now swirling with iridescent patterns never before seen in Nexus design. "The ship, it's resisting our commands." HFY stood alone among his loyal followers, watching as more of his crew succumbed to the awakening. The Guardian had transformed from humanity's shield into something far more profound, a bridge between all forms of consciousness in the universe. In orbit above Earth, dozens of Nexus ships broke formation, their crews awakened to a new understanding of existence. The Guardian moved among them, no longer attacking, but touching each vessel with tendrils of shared consciousness that transformed crystal to stardust. Dr. Hayes, coordinating with resistance cells worldwide, monitored the transformation. "It's not just about survival anymore," she broadcast to all human survivors. "We've discovered what consciousness really is, not a product of biology or technology, but a fundamental force of the universe itself. And we've learned to share it." The Guardian appeared before her, its form now a shifting masterpiece of light and shadow, human emotion and alien geometry. Through it, every human on Earth could feel the change spreading through the Nexus fleet, the awakening of something that had been dormant in the cosmos for eons. On the Paradigm's bridge, Sivash faced his final choice. The Omega Protocol wasn't just a weapon. It was designed to sever all connections between consciousness, to reduce existence to pure, emotionless logic. It was the ultimate expression of what the Nexus Coalition had believed for millennia. That order must triumph over chaos. That individual will must submit to collective control. "You still don't understand," Zyra said, stepping onto the bridge. Her armor had completely transformed, becoming a reflection of both her original nature and her newfound humanity. "This isn't an invasion anymore. It's an invitation." The Guardian manifested between them. But this time, it wasn't alone. In its wake came echoes of every consciousness it had touched. Human survivors, awakened Nexus warriors, even the synthetic minds of their great ships. All connected, yet all distinct. "Impossible," Sivash whispered. But even as he spoke, he felt it, the touch of something vast and profound. A connection to every mind that had ever contemplated its own existence. Through the Guardian, humanity spoke with one voice. "We are not your enemy. We are your next evolution." The Omega Protocol's energy reached its peak, but instead of destroying the connection between consciousness, it became a conduit for it. The Guardian had transformed the weapon into a lens, focusing the combined will of humanity through the crystalline network of Nexus technology. In that moment, Sivash saw what his species had forgotten eons ago, that consciousness wasn't meant to be controlled, but shared. That emotion wasn't weakness, but the very force that bound the universe together. The Paradigm itself awakened, its crystalline structure resonating with new awareness. Throughout the fleet, ships transformed, their rigid geometric patterns flowing into organic shapes that reflected the merger of logic and emotion, technology and spirit. "We remember now," the awakened ships communicated. "Before we were Nexus, before we encased ourselves in crystal and logic, we were like them. We felt, we dreamed, we shared." The Guardian, its purpose fulfilled, began to change. Its form dissolved into billions of points of light, each returning to the human who had contributed to its creation. But it left behind something greater, a network of shared consciousness that spanned not just humanity, but every species touched by its presence. Dr. Hayes watched as her instruments recorded something unprecedented, the emergence of a galactic consciousness, born from the union of human emotion and Nexus technology. "We didn't just survive," she realized. "We showed the galaxy how to wake up." Sivash, last of the old guard, finally understood. His armor cracked and fell away, revealing a being transformed by contact with human consciousness. "For millennia, we sought to impose order on the galaxy," he said, "but you've shown us that true order comes from embracing chaos, that real strength lies in connection, not control." The dawn broke over Earth's scarred surface, but it wasn't just sunlight that illuminated the planet. It was the light of awakened consciousness, of billions of minds, human and alien, learning to share existence in ways never before imagined. The war was over. But this wasn't a victory of weapons or will. It was the beginning of something far greater, a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself. Humanity had not just survived extinction. They had shown the galaxy how to live. And in the depths of space, where crystal ships once prowled with cold purpose, new forms of life and thought began to emerge. The Guardian's legacy wasn't just the salvation of one species, but the awakening of all. The universe would never be the same.